All right, so today we're going to take a deep dive into something that seems basic at first glance, the past continuous tense.
Sounds familiar.
But stick with us because we're going to uncover those layers that might just surprise you.
Even if you think
Yeah.
you've got this tense down pat.
Right, and to guide us through all of this is a true language enthusiast.
I'm thrilled to be here.
They're here to help us understand not just how to form these sentences, but the why behind it all, why it matters, how we can use it to really bring our stories and conversations to life.
The past continuous tense is all about movement flow. Those moments that were unfolding
Folding. Yeah.
in the past.
Now we've got some examples.
Yes.
Exercises, a little bit of dialogue to work with here, and our
On
mission
the mission.
is to really extract the gold,
The nuggets.
the gems, right?
Yes.
And speaking of those examples, we've got a few verbs to play around with: reading, writing, talking, cooking. You get the idea. And what's interesting is that all of these verbs, when we use them in the past continuous, they take on that ing ending.
Yeah. It's a simple change, but it really signals a shift from an action that's completed to one that's ongoing.
Right. So instead of saying I read a book, we're saying I was reading a book.
Exactly.
It just paints a more vivid picture, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It brings that sense of movement and things happening in real time.
Now, I know we all remember the basic structure: subject was or were, plus that verb with a winning ending. But I'm curious, are there any common mistakes that people make with this tense, even those of us who maybe consider ourselves
Oh,
pretty?
you'd be surprised
Ah.
how many people forget that was or were,
Oh, really?
especially in casual conversation.
Especially when we're just talking.
Exactly. Someone might say, I walking to the store instead of I was walking to the store.
Oh, so it seems simple, but there's still room for error.
Absolutely. Those little details, they can really trip us up.
They really can.
And another common mistake is using the wrong auxiliary verb,
Oh, well,
saying I were reading instead of I was reading.
right.
Again, it seems small, but it makes a big
Yeah.
difference
It does. It really does.
in how the sentence sounds.
Absolutely. All right, so let's move beyond the mechanics of it all. I'm really interested in how the past continuous can help us become better storytellers.
Well, one way is by using it to describe what was happening at a particular moment in the past.
Oh, okay.
So, for example, you might say, at 8 p.m. last night, I was working on that presentation.
Okay.
It gives your listener a really clear sense of what you were doing at that exact moment.
It sets the stage almost right.
Exactly.
Like we're right there.
You're no longer just stating a fact, but you're inviting your listener to experience the action with you.
It becomes even more powerful when we combine the past continuous with what the past simple.
Absolutely.
Like I was reading a book when the phone rang.
There you go.
We've got these two actions happening. The reading was in progress.
In progress.
And then suddenly
Yeah.
the phone interrupts that flow. It just creates this energy, doesn't it?
a sense of dynamism.
Yeah, dynamism. That's a good word for it.
It's like those movie scenes where you see someone peacefully going about their day, and then suddenly something unexpected happens.
Right. And it just kind of pulls you in as a reader or a listener. I mean, we see this all the time in books and movies.
Absolutely.
So I want to give you, the listener, a chance to put all this into practice.
Okay.
Our source material includes some exercises, filling in the blanks, question formations, the stuff that really helps it stick.
Solidify.
Yeah, solidify that knowledge. So take a few minutes to really work through those. And when we come back, we'll dive even deeper into this fascinating world of the past continuous tense.
Sounds good. All
Uh-huh.
right. See you in a bit.
See you soon.
Welcome back. How did those exercises go? Did you feel pretty confident with the past continuous?
Yeah, I feel like I'm starting to get a better handle on it,
Good.
but I'm ready for more.
Great, because now we're going to take a look at an example dialogue from our source material.
Right.
It's a simple conversation between two coworkers just catching up after the weekend. So imagine you're asking a colleague about their weekend plans, and they say, well, on Saturday afternoon, I was hiking with my family.
Okay.
What would you say?
I'd probably say something like, oh, that sounds lovely. What was the weather like?
Perfect.
Yeah.
And they might respond, it was a perfect day, the sun was shining, the birds were singing.
See, now we've got multiple actions all happening at the same time. The sun shining, the birds singing, all while they're hiking. It's like we're building the scene.
Exactly, and it all feels very natural, right?
Right. It doesn't sound forced or awkward. It just flows.
And that's the beauty of the past continuous. It's not just for writing, it's how we speak and tell stories every day.
Yeah. Sometimes people think of grammar as this like stuffy rule book, but this is showing us that it's really about the tools we use to express ourselves, to connect with each other, to make those experiences come alive.
I love that. And the past continuous really lets us add those layers of depth and texture to our stories.
It does. Like, instead of saying, I went on vacation last week, you could say, we were strolling along the beach, the sun was warming our skin, the waves were gently crashing on the shore.
And suddenly you're transported right.
I I can almost feel the sand between my toes.
That's the magic of the past continuous.
It really is.
It helps us create these immersive experiences for our listeners, for our readers, whether it's a novel or just, recounting a memory to a friend.
This is making me realize that there's so much more to this tense than I ever realized before. I'm like seeing it everywhere now.
And that awareness is key. Once you start noticing how it's used, you begin to appreciate its power, its versatility, its impact on how we connect with the past.
So we've talked about setting the scene, describing those actions in progress, combining it with the past simple. But are there any other ways that this tense can be used that might surprise us?
Well, one interesting use is to describe a habit or a repeated action in the past.
Oh, so not just a single action, but something that happened regularly.
Exactly. For example, every summer we were spending our weekends at the lake.
Okay, so it's showing a recurring event, something that was a regular part of life back then.
It establishes a pattern, a rhythm almost.
Yeah, like we're getting a glimpse into their routine.
It's a subtle but very effective way to convey those habits that really shaped our past experiences.
It's like we're adding this whole other dimension to our understanding of the past. It's not just about individual events. It's about the routines, the habits that made up our lives.
That's such a great way to put it, and it highlights how much we can convey with this seemingly simple tense.
I know this has been eye-opening.
It has.
But before we wrap up this deep dive, there's one more piece of this puzzle I want to explore. We've been talking about the past, continuous and isolation, but I'm curious about how it works with other past tenses, in particular, the past perfect.
Ah, yes, the past perfect.
This is where it gets really interesting for me, but also potentially more complicated.
But think of it this way. The past perfect is like setting the stage for the past continuous. It gives us that context, letting us know what had already happened before that ongoing action.
Okay, so it's all about the relationship between those two actions.
Precisely like a before and after, but with verbs.
Got it.
So you might say something like, I had waited in line for hours, and the crowd was buzzing with anticipation.
Okay, so had waited, that's our past perfect. It happened before the crowd buzzing, which is our past continuous. It gives us that full picture.
Right, and it clarifies that sequence of events. Imagine if we just said the crowd was buzzing. We wouldn't have that sense of anticipation, that build-up.
Yeah, it wouldn't have the same impact, would it?
Exactly. And this interplay between the past continuous and the past perfect can be used to create all sorts of really interesting effects in writing.
Especially, I imagine, in like mystery novels or thrillers, right?
Absolutely.
Where you're slowly revealing those clues.
Exactly, like puzzle pieces that the reader has to put together.
Yeah, and the past continuous helps bring those pieces together, doesn't it?
It does. It creates that seamless, compelling narrative.
It's amazing to me that we use these tenses so naturally in conversation without even realizing it. Like our brains are just wired for storytelling.
Yeah.
And these tenses are the tools that we use to craft those stories.
Think about how you might tell a friend about a funny incident.
Oh, yeah.
Like I was walking down the street, minding my own business, when suddenly this dog runs right into me.
There it is.
Right there in everyday language.
The past continuous setting the scene, and then bam, that past simple for the action.
Exactly. And it highlights how grammar isn't just a set of rules. It's actually an essential part of how we communicate and understand the world.
All right, well, this has been fascinating, but we're running out of time. So let's move on to the final part of our deep dive, where we'll untangle this whole past perfect and see how it works with the past continuous to create truly captivating stories.
That was good.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Okay, so we're back and ready to tackle this whole past perfect thing.
All right, let's do it.
It can seem a bit intimidating, right? All these actions happening before other actions in the past.
I know it can feel a bit like time travel, but think of it like the past perfect sets the stage for the past continuous clarity. It gives us that background information, telling us what had already happened before that ongoing action we're focusing on.
Okay, so it's all about establishing the context, right?
Exactly, like setting the scene before the main action unfolds.
So like a before and after, but with verbs.
Precisely. Let's say you're telling a story about going to a concert. You might say, I had waited in line for hours, and the crowd was buzzing with anticipation.
Oh, okay, I see. So had waited. That's our past perfect. That action was complete before the next part of the story, which is where that buzzing crowd comes in.
Exactly. It adds that extra layer of depth, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, because we understand that the excitement, the anticipation was building up during that waiting time.
Exactly. Imagine if we just said the crowd was buzzing, we wouldn't have that same sense of build up that context.
Right. It wouldn't be as impactful.
And this interplay between the past perfect and the past continuous can create some really interesting effects in writing, especially in things like mystery novels.
Yeah, where they're like dropping those little clues about events that happened before the main story.
Exactly like those puzzle pieces that the reader has to put together.
And the past continuous, it brings those pieces together to form that complete picture, right?
It creates that seamless narrative that it keeps you hooked.
You know what's amazing is that we use these tenses all the time without even thinking about it.
It's true. Our brains are wired for storytelling,
Like it's just built into us.
and these tenses are the tools we use to craft those stories, to bring them to life.
Think about how you'd tell a friend a story like I was walking down the street minding my own business when suddenly this dog runs right into me.
There you go. The past continuous setting the scene.
And then bam, that past simple for that sudden action.
Exactly. And it all feels so natural because it's how we communicate.
Right, like grammar is not just these rules, it's how we connect, it's how we share our experiences.
And the past continuous is such a versatile tool for doing just that.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think we've really uncovered some hidden depths to this seemingly simple tense.
It's not just about actions in progress. It's about setting the scene, adding those layers of detail, creating those truly captivating narratives.
And I hope our listeners have a new appreciation for how powerful the past continuous can be
Absolutely.
and how it works with other past tenses like the past perfect to make our stories come alive.
It's all about those connections, those relationships between actions and time.
Well, this has been an amazing journey exploring all these nuances of the past continuous.
It has been a lot of fun.
And I encourage everyone to keep paying attention to how it's used in books, in movies, in everyday conversations.
You'll be surprised at what you discover.
So until next time, keep exploring the fascinating world of grammar and keep those stories flowing.
Absolutely. See you next time.